So welcome everyone. Welcome to our another great Product People community event, and thanks for joining us. Thanks for spending your Tuesday evening with us today. So today's session is going to be about purposeful processes to enhance your product, and it's going to be presented by Burt, who is here with us right now. And as a rookie associate product manager, I'm really excited and curious to learn about these processes and how to use them to enhance our products. So let's start then. But before we jump into the presentation, I would like to give a quick introduction about myself. So I'm Elif. I'm an associate product manager at Product People, and I have a background in digital marketing. And also I worked as robotic process automation developer for more than a year. And then I decided to transition into product management, and I joined Product People in March. And since then, it's been a great journey. I had a chance to work with different B2B and B2C clients and work on delivery and discovery missions. So I feel like I've grown a lot since I joined. So it's been a nice journey for me. And I also would like to tell more a little bit about Product People. So what do we do is we help companies to deliver and discover great products faster. So we onboard fast and we align fast, and we help companies by managing all the unglamorous work of product managers on an interim basis, which is like usually from 3 months to 1 year. And also we have a community of 17,000 of people, and we create events, share our knowledge generously with the community. And thank you everyone for being a part of it, because you're here with us today and you're also part of this community. So thank you for being a part of it. And we will have some icebreaker questions for you before we get into the topic. So you see 2 questions on the screen. For our Zoom attendees, you will see a pop-up on the screen, so you can share your answers by clicking or selecting your answers on the pop-up. For our other invitees that join from other platforms, feel free to share your answers as comments on these platforms, and then I will share the answers with you. So to give you some time to think, I would like to read the questions. The first question is, what is the most difficult part of building great products? You can select multiple answers here. Is it understanding user needs? Is it getting a buy-in from stakeholders, or ensuring product delivery, or finding product market fit? Or if you think that there's something else, please share in the comments. And the second question is, do you have a well-defined process for building products? Yes, I do. No, each time I improvise. I'm currently in the middle of defining the process, or if you have any other answer, please share it on the comments. I don't want to bias you with my answer, but I'm curious to see especially the most difficult part of building great products, because this is kind of a tricky one as a product manager, for product managers. I see the results from Zoom. So our Zoom attendees chose mostly the understanding user needs is the most difficult part, building great products, which I agree with that, because it kind of starts the node, then you start solving the node by thinking about the user needs. And for the second question, do you have a well-defined process for building products? The most answered one is no, each time I improvise. This one got 36%. With I am currently in the middle of defining a process. So I think there is room for improvement, and then we can start and learn more about these purposeful process. So here we have Burt, who is a lead product manager, and she will share her knowledge with us generously. And the stage is yours, Emma.
Thank you so much. All right, let me get my slides up and do this awkward bit. All right, everyone see? They're looking good. Right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for your time this evening. I really appreciate that. I'm really looking forward, particularly to the Q&A part of this talk, where we can get into some debate, hopefully, about this. Really interesting, that split of where people find this hard. So hopefully I can give you some tips to make that easier when it comes to your process. And for those who are on the improvise section, maybe I can convince you that better processes will work for you. When I was thinking about this talk and what do I want you to come away with? What's this value you get from doing this? This quote came to mind: "You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems." James Clear has written a book called Atomic Habits, which I highly recommend picking up or finding on a podcast. What I'm trying to say here is that unless the way in which you go about developing your product is great and you know why it's great, you're going to struggle to get your product to the level that you are aiming for. And we're going to talk through why. Before though I go into that, I thought I'd just do a bit more of a deeper introduction to me, so you understand a bit about my background. So I've had the luck of working in a very varied career, through some really big companies through to some quite small ones, very London-based the last couple of years. Octopus has, like its name, got tentacles in lots of different pots, energy investments, and investments where I spent most of my time. Additionally, I have had a role as a governor of a local primary school. So in the UK, there's boards of governors who help guide the school on their strategic objectives. And that was a lovely experience for me to be able to contribute more to my local community, and also to get experience of being on a board without the experience to be on a board. So anyone has that type of opportunity available to them, I do highly recommend. I now run my own consultancy firm, helping teams with things like their product processes, and I'm a licensed guide at the Agile Mastery Institute. Because I teach the product mastery pathway there. So if you're interested in any of that, do let me know. And I'm very privileged that my varied career is part of my very varied life. I've also spent actually most of the last couple of years with these two down here. I have a son who's 3.5 and a daughter who is 1.5. Warning, they may come crashing in about half an hour's time. I've told them to stay away, but you never know. I think most of you have parkrun in your countries if you're not based in the UK. Those on the Zoom call, I love being active and again being part of community, so I do parkrun as often as I can get around to. This next picture is a bit left field, so bear with me. Despite my accent, I am actually Irish. I grew up in an Irish family, so that kind of community, big family relationships, that's all ingrained in with me, and I'm part of who I am. What you also need to know about me is I hate rules. I hate the rules. I hate being told what to do, particularly at work. I hate being told what to do. And it drives my husband potty. But it's probably worse that my kids are learning the same way. So we have a rule in our house that you don't eat food on the sofa. Or at least my kids I have a rule for my kids that they don't eat on the sofa. And I don't want mucky fingers all over my sofa. I have enough to clean without trying to get food out of the sofa as well as where it goes everywhere else. But my son will manage to take his little bar of whatever and stand next to the sofa and look at me. And actually, I smile, because the reason I don't want him sitting on the sofa is then those fingers go on and the sofa gets really mucky. If he can eat something like that next to the sofa and not get the food on the sofa, and he gets to watches cartoons for a bit longer, then fine. And it's that type of thinking that I really encourage product managers to have about their processes. So knowing your rules, but knowing when to break them. I think there are 3 great reasons for having a process. There's 3, in my experience, 3 big reasons why it's great to have a process for your product design and development. I'm going to talk you through them. But first, let's talk about a process. This is what I use, often what I use and what I find useful. Others, you may have different ones for your circumstance. For those of you who are experienced product managers, you will know that nothing is linear, and there is not a do this process and get a perfect product. But let's pretend for a minute so I can talk you through it. Start at the top right with defining the problem. It's where I always start. What is the problem I'm actually solving for? And I always make sure I articulate this with what will things look like when it's solved? So how am I going to measure success? So what are my KPIs? So success will be calls come down by 20%, NPS goes up by 10 points, whatever it might be. But that is how I look to define the problem. I'll then move on to validating the problem actually exists. I'll use data, I'll talk to customers, but I'm sure you've all been there where you're like, yeah, it's a real problem over here. This needs fixing. And then you go out and talk to customers and they're like, I know, I didn't even notice that. After then you've got that really good grasp of what the problem you're actually solving is, and you know it actually exists in the way you thought it did. You test the solutions. You can various different ways of doing this, but the idea is to figure out which one is most likely to solve the problem the way you need it to, and then decide which one to move forward with. Only then would you build the first iteration probably of what the solution is agreed on. And then there's the feedback loop. Make sure that as you're implementing that, you've got success metrics coming in, you're collecting feedback, and that feeds into your next cycle. So this is the process that process I've used a lot, and this is the process I'm going to use in this talk to give examples. So I started out by saying there were 3 great reasons why you should have a process. Let's talk about reason 1. Collaboration and buy-in. I am sure that for a lot of you, you are dependent on other teams or connected to other teams and other functions to deliver your product, be that they are part of the product experience or they literally build another part of your product. It might be that to solve your problem, you need the sales team to do something different when they onboard a client. It might be that the customer team needs to start answering calls in different ways. If you're building an internal product, you might need people to do their jobs differently to solve your problem. Those upfront steps of getting that problem definition and validating it can be really powerful to work with those folk and get them bought in and collaborating with you on how to build things. And if you're not in an environment where it's stakeholder heavy and you can just go directly with your customers, it works for your customers too. I think Monzo, a bank based in the UK, are one of the finest examples of this. If you are aware of their kind of community forums and stuff, they've co-created a lot with their customers by testing solutions with them. So particularly if you've got customers frustrated at a problem, that you can go, oh no, look, we're solving it. And actually, do you want to help me solve this? And can you tell me what's the problem for you? You're going to get that buy-in, which makes landing the product in the market much easier. But oh, excuse me. The other good reason is to reduce risk. So when you're building something, there's a lot you don't know. And working out what is your biggest unknown and then trying to make that risk of getting it wrong smaller is really powerful, and one of the main points of having a process to support you in the first place. For example, I once had an app I was building for a sales team, and it was to help them manage their meetings. Me and designer were kind of working around solutions, and like, yeah, I know exactly what to do. Great. What we'll do is when you log in, first thing you see is like all the people you've recently worked with, and then you can choose who that is. Now, if you think through actually that logic around knowing who they recently worked with, getting the UI to be able to select it, etc., that's a lot to figure out, would be a lot to build, would have taken, a good couple of weeks, if not a month or so. But we tested it. We went out to the sales team and we had, right, pretend you logged in, now do this. And they went, okay, yeah, okay, right, recent customers. But I see my customers like 6 months apart. Can I not just like have the customer I'm seeing tomorrow come up? And we're like, oh. So we could have gone and built something that was totally wrong, that didn't solve the problem. But because we tested early, we knew it reduced our risk. Final big reason is that a good process is scalable and repeatable for teams. If you are a leader where you've got multiple product managers working for you, or you've got multiple people contributing into your product, you've got a way that everyone can work. It actually does work for product managers of any level, as long as their problem is appropriate for their skill set. It means that if you've got a close stakeholder group that each of your PMs are working with, they all know how to interact with your team. You've also then got lovely checkpoints, whether that is to check in that the team are progressing in the way that you need them to, or the product is getting the right outputs. And if you are within the team, you're not one of the product leaders, think about it that way of like, okay, I can go, yeah, look, I'm on the right track here. Here's the output of my customer testing. This is a good reason why we've done it, and we can move on. Or even, actually, I need another 2 weeks to do that because look, we just tanked the usability testing. There's no reason we should invest in further into this yet. We need to go and understand this better. So those are my 3 reasons why I think it's great to have a process. But like I said, there's always good reasons to break the rules. I don't like following rules. I don't like being told what to do. But I do understand the purpose that I'm aiming for. I'm trying to make sure my actions align to that. So here are my 2 reasons why I think you should break the rules. Quite simply, does this process help me achieve my outcomes? So let's go back to look at the process where I take you through an example. Let's have an example where you've got your monitoring and you've noticed that the page load time on your app is slowly going up. And it's now more like 8 seconds to load a page. Right, that's a problem. We all know what industry benchmarks are and what good is. 8 seconds is not an acceptable load time for a page. Problems to find. Excuse me. Going to validate the problem then. Well, you've got your data, that's how this all started. Do you need to then go talk to customers and go, so can you tell me, does this page load a little slow for you? No, it's really clear as to what it is. And by the way, I know that was a terrible interview question, but bear with me, just an example. You know from the data that this is bad, it's not an acceptable thing, move on. Get through to test your solutions. The next reason why I would say to know what parts of the process are suitable to use and what not is understanding that biggest risk. you're trying to bridge the gap of the kind of concepts and what the problem is to what actually works in the real world that solves it. So let's look at a page load time example. You then go to your engineers and you're like, right, this page is loading, taking too long. How can we solve this? You're then going to understand where your biggest risk lies. They may well go, oh yeah, sorry, did this thing last week, shouldn't have. I just need to do this thing. Take us 5 minutes and we'll be done. Do you then need to go test a whole bunch of solutions to get it done? No. You need your biggest risk because you don't fix this, because you've probably got the type of app that is getting penalized heavy in search results now, right? Alternatively, maybe your engineers go, yeah, the thing is, we don't really have any monitoring, and then we've got this legacy systems operating in microservices environment, like can't kind of trace this, not really sure. Your biggest risk is totally different. Your biggest risk is you do a bunch of work and it doesn't work. Back to having a good process. So testing different options is definitely needed. It's about knowing what's your biggest risk. And if it supports it, great. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. So I think having a great process is really important. It helps you to get buy-in and collaboration for what you're doing, not just within your stakeholder groups and internally looking, but you can do it with your customers as well. It reduces the risk that what you are building is going to work. And it can be scalable and repeatable for teams to use. However, there are good reasons to break the rules. If it doesn't support you in achieving your outcomes, don't do it. And if it doesn't help you reduce that biggest risk, don't do it. Move forward. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to having a bit more discussion in the Q&A.
Thank you, Emma. And this was very insightful, and it was good to learn how to support your process as well. And now it's time for Q&A. So in order to give you some time to think about your questions, I will share a bit more about product people. In the meantime, you can just take a breath and think about your questions, as I said. So what are the use cases to engage with product people? We help you cover your product management positions in some cases, like maybe your product manager is going on parental leave or they're leaving, and it will take time, like from 2 months to 9 months to hire a new product manager. So in that case, we help you. And we also have senior product managers at the company. So we help with product coaching and consultancy as well. And we can also help you with the discovery sessions of your next impactful product or that you'd like to launch. And we've done this with very successfully at many clients, including like these B2C clients. These are really cool clients, and we help them with the delivering and discovering great products. Also, we worked with some B2B clients as well. And we've got some positive feedback and testimonials recently, and you can see some examples, like we onboard fast, and we align fast, and we help you to get on board and work on your product faster in a better way. And also some of our key statistics include that 75% of our clients come back after our initial engagement, and we have 40 product leaders and product managers in our company. And the good thing is that 56% of the our team is women, and 66% in the leadership. So this is good. We have very diverse people, and you can see that here we have people from diverse backgrounds. and also people from different parts of the world. And if you can see, I don't know if you see my mouse icon, but you can see that if you'd like to join us, we have a place for you. So if you'd like to join us, join our team, we are looking for product managers and senior product managers right now. And if you'd like to try to apply one of these roles, you can go to boards.eu.greenhouse.io/product people. So thank you for listening this part. So we can go back to questions. Feel free to share your questions on chat or comments, and Emma will be happy to answer that idea.
There was about a split, 1/3 for each of the answers around who has got a process. For those who improvise each time, does that make you think any differently about a process that you might want?
Yeah, good question from our speaker to the audience. Does that change your mind? So personally, if I may say that, I like the rule of breaking rules, because I'm not also sometimes rules are good to give you a frame, but sometimes it's good to break them and not to stick to them, because there are so many different cases that can happen, and it's good to not to have this obligation to stick to the rules just for the sake of sticking to them. So I like that. And I also like the example with your son. So it helped me to imagine this situation better. So we have a question from YouTube, from Alfie. What do you think about process over outcome? Is process more important than outcome? What do you think, Emma?
Absolutely not, no. So I mean, I'm guessing that you're kind of referring to the agile principles there of the outcome of a process. I think that's one. That's what it is. But yeah, that's kind of that kind of essence, the core point of the roles. If you have a process, it gives you a framework to work by. It gives you it can be a bit of a security. It can be really helpful if you're in a larger organization, that this is the way of working. It can also be great when you're learning to have those checkpoints of, okay, I need to make sure that I validated the problem. I need to make sure that that I've talked with customers about this. But the outcome is the whole point. That's what you're trying to get to. And why we call this a purposeful process is that stage helping you achieve that outcome. Is it going to get you that step closer? Because if it's not, don't worry about it. It can feel a bit like a comfort blanket. Feel free to drop it and move forward, but pick it up if you need it.
Hi, Emma.
Hi.
I think I really liked your process that you provided for the group. I think it's a structure. It provides structure in terms of product development process. And in terms of breaking the rules, I think break the rules outside the structure if you need to, but stick to a solid process that provides structure to what you're trying to create. And it'll provide you with consistency and feedback to ensure that you meet the objectives that you're trying to meet. So I really like the model that you provided.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fatma, for your input. And Alfie, I hope this was helpful for you. And he or she said thank you on YouTube. Let's see.
Yeah, this is Wolfram. Emma, thanks for kind of defining a structured way of breaking the rules. because I'm coming from more from the software engineering world where, Scrum is a big topic. Everybody does Scrum, and there are tons of rules around it, and people always have, Scrum our way, which kind of say, oh, we leave some things out. And typically they leave the things out they don't want to do or they find inconvenient. So kind of they break the rule in a way, but it's not structured. They can't say why. It's just like, oh, we don't want to do this, so we want to do that. And then it doesn't work, right? Because there's a way, right? The reason why these rules work together, right? And form kind of a complete, system somehow, right? And then they get you from A to B. So if you kind of take something out, that doesn't say kind of, okay, we still get from A to B. You may end up somewhere completely else. So if you change it, you really have to kind of like think about it and be strategic about it, know and understand exactly what you're doing and whether it still works as a system, right? Otherwise, it's just, yeah, we do the daily Scrum as an excuse for, it should work what we do. So we can't really improve because we're doing Scrum and it's the best thing to do. Well, they're not really doing it because they've broken too many rules.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that having that ability to go, well, this is the outcome, this is the purpose I'm getting from it, helps get people to do it sometimes. But where I've spent a lot of time in regulated environments and financial services, I've been able to then connect this like, oh, fancy, like do as you please product management stuff to a governance procedure that helps the FCA get comfortable with what we're doing, that, helps the CEO get comfortable that we are doing what we're doing. If you're suffering with a whole bunch of, when will it be done? When will it be done? Well, this can also help that because it can show the path you're taking and, helps people know the ways of working. We're often working as product managers in a lot of ambiguity. Hence the name of my company, Be Caught on the Slides, Play in the Grey. I love product management. It's, fun, but it's working in that grey area. And again, a process can just give it a little bit of structure where it's needed to help people work together.
I agree with your point. I think it's very important to have that kind of a process, especially when you're in a situation where you're onboarding new employees, to make sure that they have a consistent process to follow, to make sure consistency and quality of your products. So I think, yeah, it's a necessity.
And it could be a great framework. I've done it with product managers before. I've been like, so we were decommissioning this portal and I had a bunch of feedback from customers already that what we're presenting within the portal was great. The problems were all outside and how you got there and, we had too many and all this stuff. So I had someone who's relatively junior and I went, look, the problem's kind of defined here, but you don't have a lot of skills in this area of the process. So take that advantage and work on those skills, get your collaboration, get your buy-in, get all your stakeholders on board about how to do this, so that when you've done this bit, the next problem I can give you will be a problem and you have to go figure out that bit too. But then you've built the skills in the other aspects to start running more complex areas and grow your career. So it was really helpful in that way as well. Any other questions on Zoom or any coming in from?
Yes. Hi, Emma. Gaurav, thank you for your presentation and spending your time here. It's really appreciated. So I'll just speak from my experience and when you were talking about breaking the rules, especially when you work in large organizations, when a lot of teams work in their own silos, really, and you're trying to scale your operations, your processes, your product structures. That's where my practical experience has been that organizations tend to fall into the group think, structure, and that is something that ends up being the biggest resistance to an effective rollout of these processes. And I think that's where, more than the process itself, it becomes the you have the challenge really is to overcome the mindset of
Mhm.
these users, and the fact that you need to introduce change and that innovation in these processes. And that has been my feedback in terms of my experience in terms of whenever you're looking at introducing processes or breaking them, that's where the resistance always has been. So if you talk to even product managers, and whenever you talk to product managers, of course, because they're senior members in the organization, they always have an opinion. So when you talk to them, all you hear is that, okay, we need change, but the thing that they fear most is also change. So that's been my experience in the past. I don't know what do you feel about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Change is scary for everyone. We are, as a species of human beings, comfortable is nice and where we all go to. If you think about it in the most simplistic form, if you're cold, you'll get a jumper. If you're hungry, you'll go eat something. If you're uncomfortable, you will try and make yourself comfortable. And so change can be difficult for people. It's one thing I talk about with my team when we're agents of change. We get called agents of change in the company, and we've got to bring about all this change. You need to be sensitive that you might be bringing change, and that's exciting for you because you get to do all these new and crazy things. It's great, but the people it's happening to, you're changing stuff for them, and they're going to have a different response to that. And it became up particularly to your point around getting these processes to actually happen and change in organizations is when PMs had to do stuff differently. We had we always did it this way, and then we changed to this process. And if you've watched change happen to your customers, to your users, to your stakeholders, be more mindful then how it could happen to you, and also if you're a leader, how you can help your teams transition through that change. There's various models out there to look at to help people go through that process.
That would be interesting. I mean, if you have any models that you're aware of, it'd be good if you could, maybe offline send it across.
Yeah, message me on LinkedIn, absolutely. One of my favorites is something called the ADKAR model. I'm going to remember now the acronym: awareness, desire, AD, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. And it's a theory that basically goes, if you've got all of those things, you will get change. If you lose one of those things, you won't. And change will regress or in different ways. So let's say an example, let's say everyone's aware of the need to change. They desire that change to happen. They have the knowledge of what it means to be part of that change, and they have the ability to do it. They can do customer interviews, they can follow the process, etc. But if there's no reinforcement, which is generally your senior leadership walking the behaviors, maybe take this example, checking that customer interviews happen, that there's a good problem definition will kick off before you go into anything, then you'll probably see that everyone does it for a little bit, and then because no one checks, they just kind of fall back to what was comfortable before. So that can be a great model. And also I found you can carefully, if it works, you can twist it, where I've taken that model to people and go, right, well, rate yourself. This change is happening to you. How do you feel about it in terms of, do you feel you're aware of why it's changing? Do you feel you have the knowledge? Where would you rate yourself? And what we'll do with that is we'll help you. So if you go in and go, actually, because it can be quite scary to admit, I don't feel like I know how to look at the data. I don't feel like I know how to go do customer interviews. That can be quite scary if it's meant to be your job. People can go, actually, I don't feel like I know. And then you go, okay, I can help you there. Here, let's coach you. Let's teach you about how to do this customer interviews. Let's pair you with someone more experienced.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for the question. Do we have any other questions?
I have a question as well. Thank you, Emma, for the presentation. And let's say we broke the rules and didn't follow the required process, and we failed at one stage. Maybe we didn't foresee a risk. Should we start from the beginning to the process, or continue by considering this risk?
So I think it depends. Classic product manager response there, sorry. But it does depend. So let's take your example of, are you saying that maybe you tested it and the solution failed, or would that be a fair example to work with?
Yeah, it can be a good example. In the testing, we realized that we worked on a wrong solution.
Okay. So for one, great. I think that if you can find out when you're testing on effectively pieces of paper, if you're doing like prototype testing, that you're not designing a solution that would actually solve the problem, and you've not written a line of code, that should be celebrated as a success, because you've learned before. You haven't spent acres of people's time and money building and deploying and adding to your tech that you have to maintain something that will never work. And I think all too often organizations are like, yeah, we need to do it, keep going. But actually finding these points where you can fail early and take the learnings, we don't like the words failing, it's not failing, learn quickly and take that back. When you do get those learning points, it's then about, to answer your question directly, do you go back to the start? It depends what you've learned. So have you learned that the usability of that feature was wrong? Or have you learned you've actually got the problem definition wrong? Because that should tell you where to go. So if it's like, oh, this doesn't quite work with the usability aspect of it, you test a different solution, test a different prototype. If it's that you have got the problem definition wrong, then yeah, you need to go back and define that right. There's no point carrying forward. But that is the whole beauty of these processes that we work with. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you so much for the great answer.
Thank you, Çakıl, for your question. Do we have any other questions from our Zoom attendees or?
Yeah, hello. This is Amr Darwish from Egypt. Working on a product already developed, and you already developing new features. How can you focus on your customer segmentation if you already have a product, just only a new feature of the product?
So you've got an existing product and you're looking at new features. So how do you focus on the right customer segment? Is that your question?
Yes.
Cool. So if you've got an existing product with product market fit, that's great. It's kind of not what people are aiming for a lot of times. So the last part of that process is ongoing. The feedback and monitoring that you should be able to have means that you'll be able to work out, or should be able to work out how in tune you may remain with that customer segment. It might be that you can continue to improve and iterate and aim for that segment, but it might be that you're finding different shifts, and in that case I'd be breaking the rules entirely, stepping outside the process and probably doing some larger in terms of kind of the frame of reference, wider research on your market and customer segments if you think that the current segment isn't going to be enough or not enough for the business side. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, the point is we are serving around 9 million customers. So with our product is growing more and more, it's a banking product, it becomes quite difficult for us to add features for each segment. We have all levels, starting from very low income to wealthy customers. There is a challenging part because it's one app and it's serving all of them.
And are you a private company, so you have a choice about who you serve?
That's right, taking to your point.
So yeah, I'd be outside the process, but what I guess should be guiding you with this is your vision and the KPIs and what does success look like, and your features should be helping you achieve that. So I guess in your problem definition part is, who are you serving it for? That's a great thing to really get clear in that problem definition part. Which customers are you going to serve for this feature and which you're not? You can't do everyone at once. And how you segment them is going to be important, because there can be overlapping characteristics across your customers. And what else I'd be thinking about? Yeah, I think that's the main thing, your vision and then your metrics about how you support them. Does that help?
Yeah, so much. Thank you, Emma.
Thank you, Amr, for your question. Any other last questions? Okay, I think we're good now. And yeah, thank you again, Emma, for answering the questions and for sharing your insights with us. And thank you everyone for joining from YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, LinkedIn, and also thank you for our Zoom attendees. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to us through different channels. And I think, Emma, if you'd like to share your LinkedIn or any other communication channel, I think you can reach out to Emma as well. So see you next time and take care, everyone.